23 QSR 1322.
LPoliceRadio.com.
I love it. Tell me you didn't like those two intros. Of course, the first one, El Police Radio, our intro has been upgraded. You hear a lot of things going on, and that's definitely an upgrade. And the second one you heard is our new intro that we recently got for 09 Training Group. And I love both intros, but and the second one's really growing on me. So we wanted to introduce it on this show, let you know that that's going to be the sound of 09 Training Group. Now let me break down the new segment, and let's get right straight to the business at hand. We're going to have 4 segments on a show: segment A, B, C, D, or if we're numerical and we like numbers better, 1, 2, 3, 4. First segment, A, as in alpha or 1, will be news segment. So it will be police-oriented news, and we'll keep you up to date on what's going on. That should last about a good 15 minutes. Then we go into B, Bravo, as in 2, and there we're going to have the guest come on the show, and they're going to, of course, be interviewed, and they'll bring interesting content to the show. Then, if we don't have a guest, we're going to introduce our series. So our series will be reduced from what we were doing currently, the 1 hour, as the crowd starts to roar, and we're going to reduce that to a 30-minute segment. Now, we'll keep on moving on. We're going into C, as in Charlie, number 3. We're going to talk about the conversation. All our shows have the ending as the conversation, and we're going to increase that from what we were doing, probably about 5 minutes, and we're going to throw that into a 10-minute segment. And D, as in Delta, or number 4, that's going to be our closing promotion to the next podcast that you're going to hear. And it's going to be a little bit, as adult learners, we like to keep it moving. So we're going to keep it moving, and we're going to like that format. So without any further ado, I want to introduce this format to you now so you can kick the tire and play with the door handle on the new ride. So here we go. El Police Radio Police News, and here we are going to advise you of what's happening in the police, corrections, federal agency world. And one of the first interesting news articles I want to go over, and most importantly, we're going to look at our constant villain, and that's the mayor of New York City, Bill Blasio, or as I like to call him, Bill Dumbo, and we're going to see what Big Bird is up to now. And basically the media is telling us that he has pretty much set a new condition over to the NYPD and told them about their cooperation with ICE agents. Now, remember that we discussed in our segment with the domestic terrorist, and we kind of discussed how lawyers like to come in, or the lawyers come in and they change kind of how policies and things work. And we also talked about how the left and the kooky left and the communist left, they are infiltrating local governments and even state governments, and they're making those leaders influence the head of their law enforcement agencies into socialist or leftist or progressive or whatever the hell you want to call it, agendas. Now, here we have Big Bird, mayor of New York City, And he wants to say, well, this is the ongoing policy. I just want to make sure that we're following it. Well, where did the ongoing policy come from in 2017? From his freaking office, from his desk to the commissioner's palms. There's where it came from. But basically, NYPD cops have been ordered to limit their cooperation with ICE agents after a criticism over the arrest of some guy by the name of Ravi Ragbar. Now, I really don't know his history, nor do I really care. But what I do know is they arrested this guy, the ICE agents. They put him in custody. He had been reporting for several years to ICE agents. That means there's some type of deportation process going on. And he, as a condition, had to report every month. When he came to report, they took him into custody. Now, this guy is also an immigration activist, whatever the hell that means, because if you hear him speak, he can't compose a freaking sentence. But anyway, he's an activist, which really means it's an undercover title for he is a member of the New York City Communist Party. And they take him into custody. They ask for assistance because a crowd is formulated. So this was no secret to Ravi, okay, when he showed up with his lawyer, and the wife. Apparently, this arrest went down the 11th of January, but they knew something was wrong on the 3rd of January. So when he showed up, they kind of knew something was going on. I'm going to tell you about what happened here. It was really, really strange. Once they took him into custody, ICE agents, and they told him that we were going to go ahead and start deporting him, he fainted. What a coincidence, folks. I've seen things that have happened in my career, but to faint at a moment's notice, you've got to be good. So good old Gravy, he goes ahead and faints. They call for medical assistance in the form of our ambulance that's going to show up. So now the crowd is gathered. We're all chanting. We're all doing our little Bolshevik communist manifesto out in front of the building. So they call for the New York City Police Department to assist. Okay? Now, of course, the media is not really reporting it that way. They're making it seem like the New York City Police Department was part of the deportation process. No, they were there for crowd control, or better said, communist control, which they have been known to get wacky and get a little stupid. Sometimes some of them have been known to show up in black attire, start breaking windows and acting cuckoo. So anyway, the cops were called, and they took this guy to Bellevue Hospital in New York City. And if you see his interview, he says, I fainted, I needed medical attention. They took me to the hospital. Then the next thing out of his mouth is, and then they took me to the airport. So obviously he did not impress any of the physicians over at the emergency room at Bellevue. And they told the cops, get this idiot up out of here, and I don't care what you're going to do with him, but you're going to get him out of here. And they took him. They took him to the airport, loaded him on a plane, flew him out to Crone Detention Center in Miami. When he arrives in Miami, somebody gives the order, he's got to go back. A federal judge, better known as a affiliate of the Communist Bolshevik Party of New York, a federal judge ordered that he immediately be released. And then the media says, and especially Democracy Now!, okay? These people are so freaking phony, it's not even funny. Democracy Now! Is one of these leftist, socialist, communist movements, but they like to, they put Democracy Now!, so you don't know anything. It might take you several years before you figure out, holy crap, I've been shebanged by these idiots. But in the meantime, you're starting to be receiving their doctrine and cleansed of your mind and of your real, true gut feelings into the Communist Party. So Democracy Now!, they report that the federal judge gave a stunning rebuke to the Trump administration and the president. I didn't know a federal judge had the power to do that. Folks, we've talked about it over and over again. We'll talk about it again. Don't really believe the bull that you're listening to in the media. Okay. Now, did the federal judge's order get done? Did they actually do as the federal judge said he wanted or she wanted? I don't even know who it was. And the answer is yes. ICE complied. But it doesn't mean they're not appealing and not going through some other motion as a result to the order, which is, again, obstructing. It's getting in the way. This idiot ideology that these leftist pinkos have of be part of the resistance. Folks, you saw them at the State of the Union address. They wouldn't stand for In God We Trust. They wouldn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance announcement. They were very bitter during the whole speech itself. And then later they came out in droves and said that the whole thing was baloney on the president's part. And it's backfired on them. Public opinion on that speech has really gone through the roof. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Americans want their freaking country back. They don't want to hear from their political party or from their government, it sucks to be you. You know, you're wrong because you love the flag, or you're wrong because you need to stand with people that are for whatever they're for with the issue with not taking a knee for the flag. They don't even know what it's for. And you're supposed to be disgusted at every turn and you're not for immigration. What's wrong for you? You're not for Ravi here. What the hell is wrong with you? So because you don't think like them, because you're not on the plan to ruin the country, they don't like you. Remember, that's how a bunch of people became deplorables. About 61, 62 million became deplorables, a basket of deplorables. So if you don't think the communist way, that's what you are. They basically name call. They have racial issues to everything. Everything's a problem. Male versus female, female versus male, black versus white. This is all you get. It's controversy, controversy, controversy with these idiots because that's how they thrive. So the country said, we're fed up with it. You know, we send all these idiots in the Democratic Party to Washington to pass laws, and they're obstructionists. They refuse to freaking do it. They refuse to do anything. Okay, listen, this is my personal opinion on this subject, and then we'll keep on going on the news. If you're so passionate about the Dreamers, okay, and the counter offer on the table is, give me $25 billion for a wall. Well, crap. You're so passionate over the Dreamers, I'd give you $25 billion. I'm getting what I want, and it's probably going to take you 10 years to build a wall. So I'm happy if you're happy. But that's not the case, is it? So maybe it has nothing to do with the Dreamers. It has to do with a pawn. Maybe. I'm going out on a limb here, trusting Chuck Schumer is an honest person. Okay, so here we have in this news story how the tentacles of the left in the form of Mayor DeBozo is kind of influencing what is going to happen in the New York City Police Department. And of course, he'll state it is a part of policy that was formulated in 2017. And I wonder who the hell formulated the policy. Or, that sounds a little nasty, who assisted in development of that policy. Another thing to keep on the lookout for in our news segment is a new law that is being almost passed. I believe it's waiting for just signature, and that's the Abolishment of Human Trafficking Act of 2017. And it's about funding, it's about awareness, and it deals with something that is totally ridiculous and needs to be removed, and that's human trafficking. So at least the government's on the right path in passing that law, and we'll have another segment in the future on how that's going to impact us in as citizens and law enforcement officials. So that's the Human Trafficking Act. Now, without any other further ado, I want to introduce the guest that we're going to have for 30 minutes, and that's going to be Alpha Mike, which is me. And what are we going to talk about? Our new segments, why we're doing it, and the new group that's on the way. That was a quick ride over here. What we're going to do, and I described what the segments are looking like, and I'm kind of going through them now. You're kicking the tires, you're playing with the door handles, and you're enjoying the ride as we go along. It's a little bit more interesting. It's going to be a little bit more meaningful. You're going to get a little bit out of it in different segments. And again, I want you to remember, this is off the cuff. I don't have anything really planned, rehearsed in the news segment, and it will be a little bit better, when we actually go ahead and formulate our next show. But we are LPolice Radio, and you can always catch us at LPoliceRadio.com. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about things that affect the law enforcement community. Police, corrections, federal agencies. Don't even get me started on the FBI and the deputy director down there packing his bags and running down the block thinking he's scot-free. But we'll get into that in the future. But what I can tell you is we have an interesting group that we are formulating, and that is 09 TG or 09 Tango Golf or 09 Training Group. Now, we've created this, of course, we're combining two elements, and that's a law enforcement training, basic military training is going to be in there, some advanced stuff from the military as well as far as tactics, and we're combining firearms, report writing, use of force, things for you to get a clear understanding whether you're an active, retired, or have a future in law enforcement because you're waiting to be called. This is the place for you. If you know somebody that's waiting to get in, you can listen and you can have them listen as well. If you're a citizen and you're just concerned about what's going on in the law enforcement community, this is also going to be an important ride. Now, 09 Training Group, and one of the things we're going to do, we're going to have a podcast. The podcasts are not going to be very long. They're going to be about maybe, and I'm going out on the hunch here without a trial run, but we're looking probably about a 30-minute segment, and within those 30 minutes, we're going to talk about a specific subject in training. And it's to basically give you an understanding of what we're training about. We're also going to have a small blog about it as well, and that's going to be released. The group already has its website, which is o9tg.com. Now, O as in the letter O, okay? And it's a small O, not a big O. So O9 as in the number, TG, TangoGolf.com. And then there we'll have the blog. It'll go out as well with the podcast explaining that. Now, to get more in depth in what we're talking about, we're going to have segments of footage on YouTube when, of course, that requires footage. Some of it will be lectured. and then it'll be complemented by footage depending on what the curriculum is. And then we'll have the paid aspect of it, which will be on 09tg.com. You go there and you become a member. Simple as that. And it's a small fee. We haven't come up with the actual final number, but it won't break the bank. And it's probably going to take away a bag of chips, a soda, and a stick of gum that you might have brought every month. Okay, you'll have to do without those items for 1 month, and you can hook up with us. So consider it. We've got a lot going on 09 Training Group, and we've got tons and tons and tons of material, curriculum, sorting through those, and it's going to be an interesting ride. Now, for my friends out there that are really AKA haters, I know what you're thinking, but it's better that you think about something else and not what we're doing. Because, most importantly, if you haven't taken the ride that I have taken, or the ride that Mike Sierra's taken, you shouldn't be in a position to gobble and start complaining. There will be other instructors as well in this training group that will give us their expertise as we move along. You know, when you're doing something like this, it's not a temporary thing. It's not for a couple of months. It's not for a couple of weeks. It's going to be for hopefully a lifetime and the beginning of something big. So therefore, that's a lot of material you got to cover. You got to be up to date. There's a lot of resources and a lot of research that has to be done as well. So, you know, I might have talked about this on this LPolice Radio. You can get a sponsor, and sponsors are good about coming on board and controlling your content, but we don't have that here. We don't have a sponsor that's come in to control our content, just the opposite. We want to control what we're doing. You know, I don't want a sponsor that's going to give me a bunch of t-shirts and then tell me, I don't say it like that, we don't like you to talk about that, or that doesn't sound too good. So we're not really affiliated with sponsors, and I think we could. But I don't want that ride because it would do a disservice. I am eager, and I know Mike Sierra is too, and some of our lined up buddies that are going to be helping us out. I am eager to perfect my craft. I miss training. I've done very well in that aspect. I've always thought out of the box. Those people that know me know that I am an innovator when it comes to training. I don't believe in the conventional training way. Think within the box. Defensive tactics. Our curriculum was done in 1970. I don't subscribe to that BS. Like firearms. We have curriculums that are a little slow. We shoot at paper targets and that kind of thing. Even the 7 fundamentals of firearms. We're not subscribing to that. Remember, these are the two worlds that are kind of joining forces here, and that's the military world and the law enforcement world. And we're putting something together for the times of today, what we're faced with today, okay? Especially in today's society when you have terrorists that at any second can strike. Well, we're not talking about open carry. We're talking about concealed carry. We're talking about when it goes down, nobody really knows you're in the room and you're ready for the fight. We're talking about forget the operator look, and you just need to know what to do when it goes down. So that's what we're trying to build here. We're not competing with anybody. We're not saying we're better than anybody. What we're saying is we're going to give a unique, interesting perspective to an array of training that most definitely will put your mind to open up in new experiences, and you will definitely debate, but you will see that it's different and it's workable on a lot of segments. I mean, we're talking about report writing, the standard customary report writing and how that really works. What to say, how to testify. Does anybody here know how to testify? You might get a class once or twice. We're going to look at regular law enforcement training. Is it good enough every 4 years? Is it good enough every year when I get a little segment of something? Is it getting me ready for the battles that are ahead? And does law enforcement need supplement type of training? You know, we didn't pull a lot of this stuff out of our you-know-what. We pulled this stuff out of especially one country that is really going through the gamut when it comes to terrorist activity, and that's Israel, and how they have a superior security force than ours, how that security force has to stop or detain the threat until special forces can get there. It's a whole different system from the one we're accustomed to here, like the old man security guard that's 80 years old with the 6-shooter in the holster. We have to start thinking, as I've always said, out of the box, because you will discover and challenge yourself with new experiences. So take the ride with us, O9 Training Group. What's the address again? O as in little o, as in the letter O, 9 as in the number that comes after 8 and before 10, TG as in Tango Golf.com, O9TG.com. And we're still developing the page. We go officially out there May 1st of 2018. We picked May 1st just to bug our communist friends. And it's a lot of work to do. There's a lot, if you want to be successful in anything, you got to put the time and effort in. I don't have any time to deal with the haters. Just line up, take a number, and eventually somebody will get to you. Somebody will listen to you, and you get to say your 2 cents in. But while you're on the sidelines, we're in the game. That's a big difference. So we want you to be plugged in. Now, how is this going to affect our podcast here on LPolice.com? Well, it's not. We're going to have 4 shows every Thursday. We're going to keep on sending them out. But we're keeping the 2 worlds separately. Every once in a while, you remember, there are 3 shows here or 3 podcasts that we're running. 1, LPoliceRadio.com. 2, Leatherneck7.com. And 3, which is coming, O9TG.com. And each one of them have a different objective. So, but every once in a while, the objectives kind of merge. So we're going to be blending those in as well. And it's going to be a good experience. We could have done one kind of lame, I know some smart ass in the back said this is lame already. But we could have done some lame podcast and just kind of, connect to our group and blah, blah, blah. No, we want you to experience it. It's about, if you haven't tried it, then don't criticize it. That's what our motto should be. So, folks, you're going to continue to get this important content. It's going to be given the training aspect in different segments. This is a review for the kids that were sitting in the back of the classroom. You're going to get about a 30-minute podcast on training. The 09 group will have its own podcast. You'll get a 30-minute segment on a specific subject, and then there will be followed by a blog that will be launched from the website. You can join that blog. It has nothing to do with membership, and you can listen to the podcast, read the blog. If you want more on the subject, you've got to be a member. You got to join the ranks. You got to give allegiance of service. And then we will give you the full curriculum, which could range from several hours to several days, several weeks. But the curriculums, we are going to be putting them together, and it will all be a benefit. There's no way in the world you're going to sit there and take all these courses as a member and then say, I didn't get anything out of it. Boy, I could have saved the money and kept the soda pop, the chips, and the stick of gum. But we know that you will grow from it, depending on your situation. Are you trying to get into law enforcement? Hook up. Are you active law enforcement? Hook up. Are you retired and bored at home and you want to argue with somebody? Hook up with us. You can argue with us all the day. It's not the way you do it. Freaking whippersnappers think they know everything. Doesn't matter. But we want you to connect and we want you to hook up. There's my phone going off. That drives Mike Sierra crazy. It drives him nuts. Every time he listens to the podcast, he hears a little ding ding on my phone, and he reminds me of it. So, I don't know. I keep it close to the microphone, But that's our segment. There's where we're going. And now, folks, we're getting there. Remember, this is a replay for the folks in the back of the classroom again. We said that the LPolice Radio, how do you connect with LPolice Radio? You go to LPoliceRadio.com, and we're there. And we're breaking it up into 4 segments. Numerical number 4, letter D, as in Delta. Alpha, or 1, is 15 minutes of news, police-orientated, correctional-orientated, law enforcement-orientated. B, number 2, as in Bravo. We have a guest, or we'll talk about a series, and that'll last for about a 30-minute segment. C, as in 3, the numerical number, we have the conversation. And D, as in Delta, we do the promo. And what that means is we're going to talk about, for about 5 minutes, what you're going to get the next podcast. So we're kind of like, I don't know, should I listen to it? It sounded kind of boring when he said it. Well, okay, I'll listen about 5 minutes. I don't care. And then you'll connect. So that's our new format, and we can kind of put it all together in that way. You keep it moving. You keep it moving. I've always said we don't want to build an audience on one show. We want to build a library and have our audience connect, not based on the show, but based on the library of content that we have. And that content is going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Just briefly, I want to talk about Leatherneck 7. Awesome. They're doing a great job. Mike Sierra over there, under all the conditions that we face with. And we're looking at some real interesting guests he's bringing into the fold. I'm extremely impressed, not only with the show's content, I'm also impressed with some of the guests that are on there and what they bring to the table. I can't say it enough how humble they are, combat war veterans, and they're very humble. They're humble when you talk to them. They went through experiences that many of us will never experience in life, and I'm glad to be a part of them in my humble little way. So, LPoliceRadio.com, Leatherneck7.com, and coming soon, 09TG.com. And the O stands for the letter O, and it's a little o, not a capital O. There, I got it out again. Okay? So, folks, it's time for you and me to have that. I haven't finished. You're already trying to hit the off button. It's time to have the conversation. That very hour the word was fulfilled concerning Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from men and ate grass like oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hair had grown like an eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. At the end of time, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my understanding returned to me. And I was blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. You know, one of the things I wanted to do in these segments, I wanted to expand them a little bit more, because although we haven't gotten any feedback, I don't know how anybody can live without the Word of God in their life. Even if you hear it for 10 minutes, it still lifts you up, fulfills you. It plants the seed in you. It makes you grow. Look what I've just read about King Nebuchadnezzar. Do you know that in the Bible, in all 66 books, the only book written by someone that is not Hebrew or of Jewish faith is the book of Daniel, where Nebuchadnezzar becomes the author. He basically talks about how he, and I read it in the introduction, let his hair grow to the point that he looked crazy, like an eagle's feathers, flopping all out. His nails were as long as birds' claws. That means he hasn't been cutting his nails. His hair was wet as the dew in the morning. And he was living in the grass. He was living in the fields. He had turned crazy. He had gone nuts. He lost all reasoning. But what's more interesting, what happened to Nebuchadnezzar prior? You see, Nebuchadnezzar was on a collision course with God, where Nebuchadnezzar became all about himself. His ego was bigger than the land he governed. And he basically said, isn't it my hand that has created all of this splendor? And God responded. How did he respond? He gave Nebuchadnezzar his real reasoning, his real purpose that he had in life. He became crazy. And as you can hear when I read that chapter in the scripture, it says that Nebuchadnezzar looked up towards the heavens and his understanding became returned to him. You see, without God, we're mad. We do things that are, you might not see it today as being crazy, but God forbid that you have a life without the presence of God. You succumb to death, and you end up on the other side. And then you're presented at judgment with all the bad decisions that you did. And you basically say, I'm like this because I was a fool, just like Nebuchadnezzar was a fool. But in Nebuchadnezzar's story, he caught himself. He looked up. And that looking up, that expression, he knew there was a higher being than himself. And that his calling was coming from the higher being, not from his own hand, as he had stated earlier. And his understanding was returned to him. We cannot say it enough. We talk about being ready tactically. We talk about the crazy left all the time. We're giving you alerts, warnings. We're training you up because we want you to be ready for that moment. But how irresponsible can I be not to train you up spiritually, where the battle is more fierce and the stakes are a lot higher? You have the right, like I had the right, because God gave us the right of free will to accept what I am saying or to deny. I thank you for listening to me and going this far already, but it doesn't mean you need to agree with me. But I can tell you that living in your own idea or believing in yourself better than a greater power can ruin you. And how do I know? Based on the story I read about King Nebuchadnezzar. I want you to succeed, even if it means that you become King Nebuchadnezzar, but you snap out of it. I'm reaching out for you today to give you that benefit, to extend my hand spiritually so that you can snap out of that foolish world. Now, I'm not passing judgment against you, and I don't think no human being should. Judgment is passed by God. All I'm doing is being a vessel for God. I don't really have a radio voice, and I've been told that many times by my naysayers and my haters. But it's the voice that God picked. He filled me up with the knowledge. He prepared me for this moment. Bad, good, or indifferent, here I am, delivering the message with either a radio announcer's voice or my own voice. But he prepared me to talk to you today. Remember, I've always said, your salvation is today. Today's the day. It's not a week from Thursday. It's today. The scripture says today is a day of your salvation. Don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow has its own problems. Every piece of wisdom in this world you need is in those 66 books called the Holy Bible. It will lift you up, it will teach you, and it will show you. But if you don't have a relationship with the Almighty, it's gibberish. You read it, it doesn't make any sense to you. Somebody has to explain it. Imagine going to the police academy. You're a novice. You're 19, 20 years old. You don't know anything about law enforcement. And there you are in the academy. They throw the curriculum at you. All of them. Everything. Shooting, driving, defensive tactics, report writing. They just throw it at you and they go, read that, and you take the test at the end. Did you really understand what you did? Do you really understand what you're going to do? The answer is no. It's gibberish. Because you have to have a relationship. And in the academy, you have a relationship with those instructors that are going to teach you that curriculum for 6 months. And that gives you wisdom in that field. Oh, believe me, folks, you got a lot more to go. A whole career of wisdom. But it's a good start. And what I'm telling you today about Scripture is a good start also. I want you to take advantage of it because I did. Because of the humbleness of one man over 20 years ago, I became saved. If it wasn't for that person's perseverance and patience and humbleness, I might have kept on going. I can tell you one thing, you wouldn't have heard me on the other end of this microphone into your speaker, that's for sure. But because of God's mercy, grace, I can deliver this message. Get a relationship with God. Admit what I admit every single day. I didn't do it 20 years ago only. I admit it every day that I'm a sinner and I repent of my sin. You can sin by thinking and all that, but having and building that relationship with God means so much to God. To God. You mean so much to him. You're an apple in his eye. Start that relationship today. Ask for forgiveness of the mistakes that you've made. Have Jesus in your heart and make him the Lord and Savior of your life. And when you pick up those 66 books, and that one book that's called the Holy Bible, the gibberish will now become wisdom. I hope that you want to continue listening to this program. LPolice Radio, LPolice.com is where you can connect with us. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes. We're all over the place, and we want you to connect. Don't forget our other podcast, leatherneck7.com, and coming soon, 09tg.com. All right, now our last segment, which is basically the promo of what you're going to hear in the next the next podcast. Specifically for us, we have February 15th and February 22nd. I'm going to talk to you about the latter first, which means February 22nd. The title of the show, The Mask is Falling. The Mask is Falling. And we're going to discuss in detail what is happening to our cities, towns, county, states, and federal government that is at the end of the day going to affect our law enforcement. But there's hope. And hope comes in the way of February 15th. So here I'm giving you the good news first. Too many times you put on the TV, you put on the news, and it's nothing but bad news. So I'm giving you the good news first, February 15th. And that is, it's good to be an American. And I leave you with this, folks. I want you to hear this. As you hear this segment, it should motivate you for the next podcast. I'm out.
To the yearning of every human soul to live in freedom. It was that same yearning for freedom that nearly 250 years ago gave birth to a special place called America. It was a small cluster of colonies caught between a great ocean and a vast wilderness. It was home to an incredible people with a revolutionary idea that they could rule themselves, that they could chart their own destiny, and that together they could light up the entire world. That is what our country has always been about. That is what Americans have always stood for, always strived for, and always done. Atop the dome of this Capitol stands the Statue of Freedom. She stands tall and dignified among the monuments to our ancestors who fought and lived and died to protect her. Monuments to Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln and King. Memorials to the heroes of Yorktown and Saratoga. To young Americans who shed their blood on the shores of Normandy and the fields beyond, and others who went down in the waters of the Pacific and the skies all over Asia. And freedom stands tall over one more monument, this one, this Capitol, this living monument This is the monument to the American people.